Hello and welcome to Network News. Today we're turning our attention to Glasgow, which is currently undergoing a major modernisation to its subway network. Often nicknamed the Clockwork Orange, the Glasgow Subway is the third oldest metro system in the world, consisting of two tracks which form a 6.5-mile loop of the city. Originally cable-hauled, it is today powered by a more conventional third rail system at 600 volts DC, but still runs on a track gauge of 4 feet instead of the usual 4 feet 8.5 inches, and uses absolutely tiny trains in order to fit through the incredibly small tunnels which have a diameter of just 11 feet. The last time it was modernised was in the 1970s, during which they actually shut down the whole network for more than 2 years before reopening it in 1980, after which it was operated with the second generation subway stock, utilising a fixed block automatic train operation, or ATO, signalling system. Under this arrangement, the trains are in effect capable of driving themselves between stops, but still require a driver for depot manoeuvres, as well as opening and closing the doors at stations. For decades, that was how the subway operated, but in the last few years, you might have started to notice a few changes. The most obvious of these is the introduction of a new fleet of trains, the third generation subway stock. Built by Stadler, these were first introduced in December 2023, and within less than a year they've managed to replace the entirety of the second generation stock, with the final train running on the 28th of June. I should know, as I was on it. Since then, they've been able to ramp up efforts for the rest of the modernisation programme. Unlike the 1970s modernisation, this hasn't required any major closures, with the vast majority of the work taking place overnight alongside a limited number of Sunday closures. So far, this has largely focused on renewals of tunnels, but more excitingly, they've also been installing a new signalling system utilising communications-based train control, or CBTC, that will one day allow for unattended train operation, or UTO. In effect, this opens the doors to the possibility of a fully driverless system, but before that can happen, other safety measures will need to be introduced, and the most obvious of these is on display right now at Govan Station. These are the new platform edge doors which are being progressively rolled out across the network to allow for full segregation between the tracks and the platforms, a safety measure which is seen as essential when operating driverless trains. The doors are 1.7 metres high and have been provided by Gilgan Door Systems, the same company which installed the platform edge doors on Line 1 of the Paris Metro when that was converted to UTO. So far, I've been referring to them as platform edge doors, but I have also heard them referred to as half-height platform screen doors. This differentiates them from full-height platform screen doors, as seen on the Elizabeth line, which stretch all the way from the floor to the ceiling to provide a full seal between the tracks and the platform. From what I can tell, both platform edge doors and half-height screen doors mean roughly the same thing, but I'm going to continue to refer to them as edge doors since it provides better clarity and avoids confusion with full-height screen doors. In any case, the reason they haven't opted for full-height doors is to, quote, preserve as much space and openness within the stations as possible, while still maintaining passenger safety and security. Though it is also worth noting that edge doors are significantly easier to install than screen doors, so that's also likely a large part of it. Whilst the doors themselves have been installed and look ready to go, they're being kept open for now and won't be put into use until they've been installed at Partick, Govan and Ibrox, after which they'll formally make the switch across to the new signalling system and bring the doors into use at these first 3 stations. In the meantime, overnight testing is still ongoing in preparation for the switch. Once the new system is live with doors operating at Partick, Govan and Ibrox, a rolling programme will commence to install platform edge doors at the remaining 12 stations across the network, which, once complete, will enable the system to fully move to unattended train operations. When this happens, the train's driver's cabs will be removed so that you can sit at the front, like the DLR, though, similarly to the DLR, there will still be a driving panel there, which is required for operations to and from the depot. The Glasgow Subway will be the first time that UTO has been rolled out across the UK, and I know what you're thinking, what about the DLR? Well, whilst it's correct to say that the DLR doesn't have a driver at the front of the train, it does still have an attendant on board, whereas the new system being fitted to the subway is capable of fully autonomous operation with no staff on the train at all, thus providing an opportunity to cut staffing costs. Though with that said, they may still opt to have a member of staff on board anyway for security purposes. It remains to be seen. The switch to UTO will enable the subway to reduce headways to as little as 90 seconds, down from about 4 minutes today, and will all be controlled from a new operational control centre built at the depot, which itself is also being enhanced with new equipment and an expanded stabling shed to support the maintenance requirements of the new fleet. Whilst these are the big ticket items that are attracting the headline attention, it's also worth noting that other minor improvements are often just as important in the transition to modernity, and this is no different. New digital departure screens are being installed at stations, which should hopefully provide more information than the previous dot matrix indicators, and as of this March, it's now possible to use contactless bank cards to pay for your travel on the subway by tapping in and out at the gate lines across the network. Whilst often overlooked, smaller changes like this are essential in improving the usability of the network. Making it easier and more intuitive to navigate and pay for your trip will leave people with a better overall impression of the system, hopefully leading to them making more journeys in the future and thus growing its modal share. Bringing our attention back to the signalling system though, and with this being a UK first deployment of UTO, there will be a lot of eyes following this project closely, from politicians to officials within the rail industry, and its success or failure could have wide-reaching implications for the rest of the sector. As the latest round of strikes causes disruption across London's tube network, many people, particularly on the right of British politics, have touted driverless trains as a possible solution. The trouble is that retrofitting this technology to existing lines is not a simple task. For Glasgow's relatively short network of 6.5 miles, the Modernisation programme is expected to cost almost £300 million. Now multiply that across the London Underground's 250-mile network, and the cost could rapidly run into the tens of billions. In an age where London doesn't even have enough money to fund a desperately needed replacement of the ancient Bakerloo line trains, converting the network to UTO, with everything that entails, is highly unlikely to be a priority, and with the costs of doing it across such a large network being so high, it's also likely to be the case that the priority for capital investment will be for new lines, such as the Bakerloo line extension or Crossrail 2, rather than further modernisation of the existing network, which is already pretty good. There's also additional complexities of the underground which have to be taken into account, such as the fact that most of it is actually above ground, therefore requiring additional security measures to make sure there's nobody on the tracks, as well as how in some places it shares tracks with National Rail and London Overground trains. There's also concerns over safety. Even if a train is physically capable of operating without a staff member on board, many members of the public would still feel much more comfortable knowing that there's somebody there for security purposes, or even just to ask them questions about the journey. And if you're going to be paying to have somebody on the trains anyway, that significantly reduces the economic case for automation. None of this is to say that UTA won't have a role in the future, as it's already operating in several other cities around the world, just that it's unlikely to be a priority for a while. Nevertheless, the Glasgow Subway becoming the first in Britain to make use of the technology is certainly exciting to see, and it's one I'll be paying very close attention to as it gets progressively rolled out over the next year or so. What are your thoughts on the Glasgow Subway Modernisation programme? Are you excited to see the deployment of this technology, or do you have concerns about job losses and safety aboard the trains? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to Network News for more updates like this, and until next time, thanks for watching.